You speak in English and I
Salve, io sono Stephen Day, di Zero Fun.
This is the look of a man that had no idea he was about to be expertly interviewed in his native language. I guess I should back up. The night before this, I flew across the country to pick up my Energica Experia, but I got stuck at the airport in Denver for 12 hours. Bored, luckily I found an Italian language Harry Potter book at the terminal. I figured it was fate, so I stayed up all night teaching myself the language in an attempt to impress the Energica USA CEO. I wanted to ask him how the bike stayed cool, charged so fast, and if the height and spread out layout of the battery was somehow related to it. Hoping the shock of speaking his native language would let him slip up somehow and give me trade secrets, I went for it. I'll translate his reply now.
Bravo, Steven.
Stefano, Experia,
Have you ever bought a new cell phone and then, left it behind somewhere and gone back and had to use the old cell phone and perfectly fine, but it suddenly feels really old? Well, anyways, I'd like to talk about my Experia experience. Sounds weird to say. I put about 500 miles on it out in California, and now I'm back to my old Ribelle, the Mach Zero. For my use, there really wasn't an appropriate Energica. My back couldn't handle the extreme aerodynamics of the Ego with the requirement of a really tight tuck the whole time. You can't really sit upright at all without leaning forward. So I couldn't commute on that. Even though for long rides I do love to lay down flat with my backrest, but stop and go traffic and commuting, I couldn't be up and a half hunched the whole time. So that left me with the Eva option, which is what a Ribelle is based off the Eva, but with a bigger motor and a little more fun, But unfortunately, it doesn't have the aerodynamics of the Ego, which means you get shorter range, less efficiency, and you create more battery heat and all that when you go the same distance. So the Experia really is the perfect bike for me. It's more upright. It's got aerodynamics that are just to die for. And here's my experience from riding 500 miles around California with it. The first thing I noticed was the storage. This guy is great for the soft bags in the back, and I guess it's not so great for the tail bag I had to use on this one. As you can see, the seats popped up there to charge, and with a tail bag, it kind of gets in the way of that. And I also had I was still on actually my little air hawk thing there, and that those straps can get in the way of shutting the seat. So if you're going to do a lot of CCS charges in a day, that's kind of gets in the way. That's not to say this isn't a great bike and it doesn't do everything you need to do, but if you're gonna charge 4, 5, 6, 8 times in a day, Experia with the charger on the side is just so much nicer to have. Additionally, the Experia has hard cases that lock, and that's always a concern of mine too when I'm on long rides, because I'd love to leave my helmet behind, but I've got a little camera on it, and it's a couple $100. I'm always afraid if I leave that on the bike, someone's gonna grab it and run off and sell it on eBay for $100 or whatever. But with the Experia, you can actually lock that in the tail compartment, and it's big enough to hold a helmet and stuff around it. And then also, it's got tank storage, inside the tank, where this guy has all the charging gear and stuff. You hold down a button on the handlebar, and it just pops open. So it's electrically locked, and it only opens when the bike is unlocked. So that's really cool. Inside is two USB-A's. So what you can do is you can lock devices in there while the bike is charging. You can leave your phone, your cameras, GPS, whatever you want to leave in there, and go get food and come back, and your stuff is charged, and it's nice and safe and locked away in the tank. So that's a great addition for someone touring or even just, going for a ride where they got to stop for a little while somewhere. So yeah, it's great to lock up all of your gear and not have to haul it around with you. and then come back and have it safely fully charged. So huge benefit there for touring. I was also warned about how maneuverable the bike was, which I thought was, silly. It weighs the same thing as my Rebelle. There goes my light. Weighs the same thing as my Rebelle, so I thought, it's going to handle the same, Well, let me just take a step back. The original Energicas had a lot of weight up high, and I actually chose to not buy one initially several years ago because of that. I hopped on an Eva 107, I think it was, and it felt difficult to slug around, with all that weight so high up. So I held off on buying an Energica at the time, and then when this one came out, it had actually way more capacity, but they brought the center of gravity down a bit more. So it was kind of, nice to ride. It wasn't like you were, fighting a huge, 200-pound battery in your lap. So I don't know how they did that magic, but this was a much nicer ride than that. Well, I was kind of shocked when I hopped on the Experia, and sure enough, I felt like, I don't know, maybe I was 1,000 pounds or something, and I was just sending it the wrong controls because the bike was just all over the place. Squirrely? I don't know, it sounds bad to say it like that, but only because it was responding so easily and so quickly. The bike is balanced just to an insane amount, to where the slightest control input will just make the bike go whatever direction you want. And I was trying to send it controls for, a Rebelle, which is a heavy bike with, good center of gravity. But the new one, the center of gravity is so low and so well balanced, you can flick it like it's a Ninja 300. It's incredible for a touring bike just to have that kind of control. Also, there is a cool upgrade, which is built-in frame sliders on the battery right about there. They're attached to the frame, of course, and they stick out just enough so if the bike falls over, then there's a better chance that, the pack won't get punctured and the bike gets totaled or something. So that was really nice that from the factory stock, you get sliders that will protect the most expensive part of the motorcycle, which is the battery. So huge plus there. Love that. I will definitely be adding full frame sliders and axle sliders. My favorite are the Energica of New England, as with everything. They have a complete line of accessory for Energicas, every make and model you could want. So yeah, I'll be adding those pretty soon here, just because every bike, as if you've been watching my videos for a while, every bike I own at low speed, I set it down at a parking lot or a stop sign or something. Every bike without fail for 20 damn years. So I'm waiting for that to happen on this one, well, the Rebelle, or the Experia back in California. So I want to be ready for it when it happens this time. So the riding position is more relaxed and upright than on the Evas, especially the Rebelle, which is, like they put like a 20% kind of, lean into it, just so you have a little more fun, because it's got a ton of power compared to the other Evas. So I will definitely be adding some risers to it, even though it's really upright. I want a little more upright, because I gotta either be, my back is horrible, I've either gotta be like completely straight upright, or I've gotta be completely laying down on the tank. And while I'm talking about the tank, I don't want this to sound bad, but it locks, so when you're riding, you can't open the lid when you hold the button down. It's a good safety feature. You don't want the lid to pop up, and you take a turn and the handlebar can't turn because it's hitting the lid, so that makes sense. I understand why they did that. But if you've got cruise control set, you're on the highway, and you want to whip out Insta360, you can't. You gotta hide it in your, jacket or something. So I've got to figure out some way to have accessible storage while riding, something I can grab, I mean, like if I wanted to have a, little piece of beef jerky or something and, chew it under the helmet while I'm on a, 2-hour leg, that would be nice, but, yeah, I'm gonna have to hide it in a jacket or something, bro. I'm hoping Energica of New England releases a riser for the handlebars, so that, let me back up. You have to have the handlebars facing perfectly forward and the engine stopped for the front to pop up when you tell it to pop up. With risers, you should be able to get a little bit of turn into it, so you can have it parked and, at a good safe angle when you pop the front up. So definitely going to be adding some risers for just the increased posture and to be able to open the front at, different angles when parked. Instead of having to worry about it, bumping against the lid. Yeah, minor thing, but I'm just happy to have a locking frunk with USB inside it. There are 4 USB on this thing, on the Experia, in addition to all the power cables tucked in under the fairing, which will power a heated seat, it'll power heated gear, there's one dedicated for a GPS. I mean, the thing is just, it's ready for people to tour on. It's great. The next thing I realized was stopping my first charger. I rolled in at 44%. And plugged it in, and I was gonna go. I actually set up a little camera on the dash. I apologize. I lost most of my video while I was out there. I left it in the bike, and it's getting its first service right now. so I've got only little bits of stuff to show you all. But this is one of those things. I plugged it in at 44%, and it said I had like 17 minutes to 80% or something. And as you know, with EVs, they start to slow down as they get to higher state of charge. So yeah, I was right next to it and out. I thought I'll run in, get some food, come back out. And yeah, I had 17 minutes to get the food and eat, which was just not enough time. So I came back out to eat at the bike, and by the time I had the food, it was at 94% or so. It charged at 25 kilowatts, and it's able to do 26. And it'll do it all the way up to like 90%, and then it'll do it all the way up to like 90%, and then it throttles down to 11 or 9 kilowatts or so. But it's still, like, by the time I finished eating, I was at 98 or 99%. It was really impressive. And beyond that, the battery was still green, which if you've seen my other videos, you'll know heat is and the intro to this video, heat is the enemy of long-distance electric motorcycle touring. So it stayed green, charging at 25 kilowatts, and also the high and low being charged, it creates a lot of heat. So charging almost 200% and at insane speeds, the battery stayed green the entire time. So this is going to be a great touring bike. So I will say one thing that didn't quite make it into production and was kind of mentioned in the earlier versions of the launch edition is the inclusion of a center stand, which of course isn't on my Ribelle. What that allows you to do, obviously, is during a long ride, you can pop it up on the center stand, and you can spin the tire around and spray the chain down with some lube, and while you're charging, and then go get some food and come back, and your lube is dry, and you're ready to go. It makes maintaining the chain an extremely minor inconvenience. So I'm definitely going to have to add a center stand. Hopefully, it's an option. I believe I've heard it's an option from the factory, and maybe from Energica of New England. I don't know. Those guys, they make everything. But speaking of that, yeah, gonna definitely be adding my risers, a bunch of sliders, center stand. I think Eon, Energica of New England, is also working on a skid plate, because I saw in the manual that the Experia actually is rated for light off-road, dirt trails and stuff like that, nothing too intense. So I'm going to be riding, I think late this spring, I'm going to ride with a DSR and Ben. I'll leave a link to Ben's channel. He's awesome. He's doing some great stuff with the live wire. But he's got 2 live wires, and one of them he's outfitted for like the long way up style riding. Like, he's pimped that thing out. So we're all going to go and do some off-roading, very light off-roading for a few days, and camp out of our bikes and see how they do, charge at campsites and all that. And it'll be an interesting ride. So if you want to see that, go ahead and drop a subscribe here. Got some other interesting rides lined up, and of course I'll be showing off a bunch of Experia upgrades in the next month or two, probably. Keep losing my light. But I think that's it for my initial review. I did about 500 miles, and it was super comfortable. It was the most comfortable OEM seat I've ever been on. And a little bit of a wear-in period in the beginning, of course. Went a little bit numb down there, but that was just for the first leg, and then after that, no real problems. So probably gonna take it by Corbin's and see if they can make something for me. Just with some heat and maybe extra comfort for the 24-hour riding days that I intend to do, instead of using this little cheap Airhog knockoff thing. So we'll see what Corbin can whip up. I think he's working with again Energica of New England to produce some interesting products for the new lineup here. But that's what I've got for my initial review, and hopefully in a few weeks I'll fly back out and get a lot more footage and maybe have some fun that I like to do. So, yep, that's all I've got. If that was helpful, or you want to see more videos like this, drop a like, and of course subscribe to see, whatever crazy stuff I do in the future. And have a nice day. Nah, baby, I would never do anything. I would never leave you. You know that. I love you.